The world around us is hostile to the Word of God and to biblical values, but we are called to be salt and light, to stand for truth in a decaying culture. We are not called to run from the fire, but be willing to step into the fire. God has placed you at this time in history on purpose and for a purpose. Join us as we get better equipped to address civics and culture from a biblical worldview. Welcome to Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church. Let's welcome our hosts Alison and Debi Vandenboom.
Today's topic is college a scam? We have a special guest, the Regional Director of Southeastern University and Director of Dream City College, Josh Moza. Josh, thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, of course. It's so cool to get to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to kind of start off with, you were in charge of Dream City College. What is Dream City College, and why did a church create a college in the first place?
Yeah, and first off, I just want to try to answer that question right away. College might be a scam in some places, but right here, college is not a scam.
Okay.
So to answer your question, though, Dream City Church wanted to start this college, Pastor Luke and Pastor Tommy, and the heart behind it was we feel like education should be done in the church. And when you think about it, initially when school started, all school buildings were inside of churches. And now we've gone away to now all these school buildings are done on big college campuses, and it's woke professors and all of this, and it's just changed so much over the last several years. So we're trying to bring it back to the church and make sure that students are getting a real Christian education. The other reason why is we're starting all these new campuses across Arizona and now California and other states as well, and we see Dream City College as a pipeline to get to staff all of these different campuses.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what do you see in other college campuses that are lacking, that's something that Dream City's like, hey, we're filling this gap?
Yeah, totally. Well, I think first of all, the education system is really letting students down when it comes to preparing them just for life in general. Even from high school, when you go to high school, you don't learn anything about how to manage your finances. You don't learn about relationships, all these different things. And college doesn't make it any better. So that's one of the things we do is Tuesdays we have practical teachings. We've had Debi come in and do teachings for us before, but we talk about things that are going to make you successful in life. And that is those finance teachings. We do a self-defense teaching where one of our pastors with a black belt comes in and teaches self-defense. We do the relationship talks, and we just do so many different things that prepare students for actual life and how to be successful in life. So that's one big thing.
I love that too, because you see so much of what's going on college campuses, and it's ridiculous. Like it's not real life. The things that are they're in a bubble, right? Of thoughts, right? A bubble of thought that nobody else in the world thinks that way, but they get this so much of communism and Marxism and just all these things, all the DEI stuff, all the gender theory, all those things started in college campuses and have kind of tried to spread out to the, because if you're getting trained as a teacher at a college campus and you take it into a classroom and it just spreads, right? But that's not the real life that most people live, right? It's relationships, it's money, it's knowing how to vote, and like all those practical things that you were talking about a minute ago. Those are the things that you see kids at college campuses don't know how to do any of that. They don't know how to be a real adult. Because they're getting all of this stuff that is completely meaningless unless you really want to push an ideology into society. Yeah, so I love that.
And even when it comes to working a job, most of these students who go to these big colleges, they learn about their job, but they never learn how to actually do the job. Right. So for us, whether it's ministry or business, or now we just added a trade school, whatever that looks like, we have students that are coming here and they actually get 8 to 10 hours a week of job experience in the job that they want to go into. So when they graduate, not only are they prepared for life, but they actually know how to do the job already.
That is really cool. Talk a little bit about the trade school. What does that entail?
Yeah, so we're the first ever Christian trade school. We have HVAC, we have electric, we have plumbing, project management. There's a few others that I'm probably missing. We have some different coding things. They're all on our website if you want to check out dreamcitycollege.com. Yeah. But what we've seen over the last several years is less and less students are going to college, especially guys. They're going into trade schools and things like that. If there's no Christian option, it kind of puts them in a place where they have to choose to go learn about secular things along with the trade school. So here they can come and they can get that good Christian education, be surrounded by like-minded individuals, and then learn about the trades as well. And we need those jobs. We need electricians, we need plumbers, we need HVAC, all those things. And to have good Christian people doing those businesses, I think is going to be a huge success for our country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of colleges teach people what to think and not how to think.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that students don't necessarily recognize at that young of an age. They're like, they just come in, a professor gives them a certain way to think, and this is how you do it. And there needs to be more of that teaching, like you have all of these options. And I think that's why a lot of colleges don't necessarily give all these options. Like you could go to trade school. I mean, it's almost frowned upon in different types of universities, right? Like, oh, that's a different class of people. There's all these elite universities that, and surprisingly, many of them are, we've talked about this a few episodes ago, are founded on Christian principles by Christians.
Right.
But they, like you said, they put themselves in a bubble and they say, this is what the elite do. This is how they think. This is how they talk. And they really take God out of it.
And it's so weird to me, like you were saying, we send people off to college, and college used to be about learning to think for yourself, writing all these papers, doing research.
Yeah.
But now that's so frowned upon. Like you were saying, they want to just tell you what to think. And it's so backwards on what college is supposed to be.
Right. And I know there's so many classes that are not, almost like half the business classes that I have, my friends were talking about going through. They're like, oh, I'm taking this and this. And I'm like, what are you doing? And none of it has anything to do with what they're going to do if they start a business, if they run a business, if they work at a business. I'm like, what is this for?
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me how it doesn't apply.
Right.
So many things don't apply.
Well, and it's funny because, okay, I have a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree in education. I remember hardly anything that I learned in college. I mean, honestly, and I do teach classes for a living, but there are maybe 3 classes that I actually remember learning something useful from those. But most of it is just nonsense. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
And you're paying tens of thousands of dollars
For sure.
for that nonsense
Right.
and going
Right.
into debt, right? So this is where the question at the beginning about is college a scam? If you're spending all that money and not really getting a net gain out of it, you have to rethink, is this worth it, what we're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that is the question. So if we go back to, is college a scam? Charlie Kirk says yes. And you think the answer is no based on where you go, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think that what we're talking about, in many cases, college is a huge scam. And I would agree with Charlie Kirk on that. I think that all these people are going to school, they're paying sometimes $40,000, $50,000 a year, getting themselves into so much debt.
Right.
And then they don't learn how to do the job. They have problems getting jobs. They don't even end up doing what their major was in.
Right.
It's a huge scam. And then on top of that, they're getting their values twisted. And one stat that's stuck out to me the last few years is 8 out of 10 Christians that go off to public university will walk away from their faith. And so many Christians are going to these regular colleges, paying so much money and getting absolutely nothing in return. On the flip side of things, there are students that want to go into specific fields someday that do require degrees. And if you want to go into those fields, you need to go to college and play the game. And if that's the case, then I think colleges like ours is an amazing opportunity, because when you come here, you get your chapels, you get your practical teachings, you're surrounded by like-minded individuals. You're not going to walk away from your faith here, but you're going to go deeper into your faith and then get that degree. And on top of that, our cost is so much more affordable. Southeastern University, our partner school, believes in us. They believe in students that want to do ministry, whether that's in the church or whether that's out in the workforce. So students that come here pay about 70% less than they pay at the traditional university as well.
And I think, I was thinking about this a couple days ago after we had first talked about this episode, and that you're seeing this even within the homeschool community or other where people are doing micro schools. Like they're taking this micro school concept is really kind of blown up in the homeschool world, where you have people that don't want to send their kids to traditional school, but they want to do that. Maybe they work or they don't feel equipped. And so they create a little micro school, and either one of the parents or they'll hire someone to come in, and it's like 4 families that live in a neighborhood, and their kids come together. And it's almost like the one room schoolhouse kind of concept, right? Where you have within a little village, right?
Yeah.
So it's within a neighborhood, within a friend group, within a church, whatever, that they're creating these little micro schools. And I was thinking about that, really the satellite campus concept of placing it is almost like that, right? Because you're putting it in a home environment, right? We're in the home church, and having that where there's lots of one-on-one, there's lots of, you get lots of attention as a student, getting that, getting internships and those kind of hours right from the get-go that most of the time you have to wait until you're a senior to even get, like when I was student teaching, we didn't get really into that until later on. And it's just like kind of that smaller, more intimate environment seems to be popular across the board with schooling. So it's really cool to see that happening at a college level.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that somebody would pay $40,000 a year to go live on campus and be one of 50, one of 60, maybe one of 100 in a classroom.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas here, I mean, you work at Dream City. We probably have 100 staff members at our church just in the Valley, between our Valley campuses. And we have 20 to 30 students on campus. We have about 50 total. I mean, we have way more staff members than students that are constantly pouring into them. So it's just a completely different, it's a completely different experience.
Yeah. And I think that both what you guys are saying is how important the people you surround yourself with matter, like how important that is, right? And it's like that quote you always see, it's like, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you what your future looks like. If you are going into an environment where things that are of the world are completely praised, right, and put on a pedestal, then your perspective is going to change. So I kind of want to go back to that question is, why are so many kids, that stat you shared earlier, why are so many kids growing up in Christian homes, leaving for college, and then leaving their faith?
And I think that goes back to what you were just saying. It's who they surround themselves with. They're surrounding themselves with professors that are telling them what to believe, not how to think. And then on top of that, they're surrounding themselves with people that hate God and hate America and all these different things. And it's no wonder why they walk away from their faith.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's,
Well, it seems to be intentional that they want them to walk away from their faith.
Oh, for sure.
Right? So it's an onslaught against trying to isolate them into, what kinds of clubs are allowed on campus or what kinds of speakers. We've seen there's a lot of speakers, whether it's Michael Knowles or Charlie Kirk or whoever that wants to go talk about something that are more biblical, conservative principles, and sometimes the colleges won't even let them come speak.
Right.
So which is crazy when you think about what you said earlier, that college is supposed to be a place where you think and you learn to hear other people's viewpoints, and if you're threatened by someone coming in, okay, you don't have to go listen to that person.
right.
Why do you care if other people are listening to that person on campus? It's really unbelievable how far it's come on college campuses. It really is.
Yeah.
So if there was a student that's listening right now and they go to a secular school, but they're a Christian, what advice would you give them to help them through school being in that type of environment?
Yeah, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this as well, but I would just tell them to stay strong. Continue to read your Bible every single day. I don't think that every single Christian should leave the public university and come to schools like this. Otherwise, there'd be absolutely no light in those schools. Right. So if you feel called to go to the university, go do it. But you need to stay strong in your values and make sure that you have accountability. Maybe bring a friend with you or have a pastor or a church you're going to regularly in that area so that you have accountability. That way, if your life starts to change, someone can call you out on that and let people speak to you. That's one thing. So many people just want to live their own life and have no one pouring into them. But allowing someone to speak into your life when they see something, that's going to make a huge difference. And then just reading your Bible, praying, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you really kind of have to see yourself as a Daniel, right? So it's like having that, being that one person in the midst of all of this evil, right, and wickedness, and that he was able to stay strong and say, no, you can do what you want, but I'm not gonna do that, right? I'm not gonna eat what you're telling me to eat. I'm not gonna worship this, idol and whatever those things were. And he, they did have a little group of friends that were there, but he also had a very strong relationship with God and prayed and was able to stand up to that and ended up, changing the environment for the better because of that, because the people in charge saw the light in him, which is what you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Having that light, because you can, it is a battle though. And so it's making sure that, or if you're a parent sending your kids off, it's like this mindset of my generation that, everybody has to go to college. You have to go to college. You have to go to the state university. And if you don't, there's, so you have graduating seniors that are asked, well, where are you going? What are you going to school for?
Right.
And they're putting pressure on these kids to decide and go to some university and I don't think fully understanding how much that's changed and how little those, plus how many people have a degree and are doing something completely different than what your degree was in, right? I mean, my husband is that way. I'm working in the field that my degree is in, but I know so many people who that's not the case for. I mean, probably more so than
Oh, for sure.
than who are actually working in the field that they spent tens of thousands of dollars to get a degree in.
Makes no sense.
And it does make you, I mean, you do get smarter by learning. It's not that education in and of itself is not worthwhile, but when you're looking at all those factors, you have to really consider whether this is a good idea or not, and make that choice wisely and with prayer.
Yeah, of course. And I would totally add to that and say that somebody listening might say that I'm one of the two. I'm going to go off to college and I'm not going to walk away. But I feel like probably all 10 are saying that, and still 8 are still walking away. So you have to know that you know that you know, and you have to stay firm in that relationship with God and stay firm on your values. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with like one of the other 8.
Yeah. And it really reminds me of my experience in college. So I went to Arizona Christian University. I was in that type of environment, but I went there to play volleyball. And the sports were a very different world than the students that were there for Bible college, right? And so, you know, I've been used to being on a team my entire life. So I'm used to having something that I fit in with, and this is what I do, and this is kind of like my identity as far as like socially, right? And when I went to this school, the coach that was there was extremely toxic. She was very negative. She was very down-putting to other people, to our team and all of this stuff. And I found myself feeling like, am I the only person that I can't listen to this? I don't want to be a part of this. And I started separating myself from that, because I'm like, this is not how God would lead. This is not how this, you know. And I think my advice would be, you have to be okay being alone, like stepping out of a social environment where it feels more comfortable to be like, this is where I'm at. We're just going to go along with it because everyone else is going along with it. I was the only student that stood up and said, this coach is doing illegal things on our campus, and I know about it, and I'm telling you that it's illegal. And it was like my team got mad at me for doing that. All of the girls on my team were like, why would you turn in our coach? Why would you do this? And I'm like, because it's wrong. And I remember feeling so alone on my team that I was a part of. And it was the weirdest thing. And I just remember like going to lunch and doing stuff by myself, because I was like that I can't, you know, and they're all mad at me. And so it's so interesting. Wherever you're at, you can still face those trials of you have to stand up for what's right. And that's being able to do that is something that it's like, don't expect to fit in with everybody wherever you're at. Because it's, you know, if you know the truth, there's going to be a time where that pressure comes and you have to make that decision if you're going to be. And that's the question I always ask myself is, what kind of person do you want to be? It's not what result do I want? And I don't want to fit in. I don't want to do this stuff. But what kind of person do I want to be when this is over? And am I going to feel good about it? You know?
Yeah. It's huge.
It is huge. So if you are outside of this, you're not going to college, you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're somebody on staff who says, I want to help with this problem of students walking away. What can other people on the outside do to keep college students in their faith?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question to ask. And I even think about our church. I mean, there's a ton of colleges here. We have ASU, and then we have ACU, we have GCU. And although some of those schools are Christian schools, not everyone that attends those campuses are Christian students on the campus.
Right.
So we have staff members, especially young adults, that will go out to these different schools and meet people. We have students that will come here. And when we meet somebody that comes from ASU or GCU, it's not just having one conversation like hope to see you again, but really connecting with those people and making sure that they have a home here at Dream City Church. So I would encourage anybody, when you have a Christian or you have a student that comes to your church, get to know them and actually pour into them and love on them, and don't take for granted that they came that one time, but really build that relationship. Because I think that if we can support more students going to universities, I think that would help them stay in their faith.
Yeah, and I think the misconception is that those young adults don't want input or relationships with other people or older people. That's not true.
No,
I
not
know
at all.
from my experience, right, that they really do crave
They crave
those.
mentorship. Yeah.
And so I think, I always said that, when my kids got older, they almost needed me more in that transition into adulthood, right, than when they're young, because there's so many things that are new and they're trying to figure out how to be on their own and be an adult. And even if it's just like being a cheerleader and you're amazing and you can do it. But I always think about kids that, I'm in my 50s, so everyone's a kid, but you guys are kids too. But but when I'm talking about kids, I'm talking about like 18 to 22, right? That college age. They they need that relationship. And I really, my heart breaks for some of these young people that don't have that. They don't have a relationship with a parent or some good mentorship like that they can find that in other adults. And so we can't just like ignore that demographic, because they really do, I think, need parenting and just mentorship more so almost at that age. And
if we ignore that, I guarantee you the professors on the campuses and the students that hate God are not going to ignore them. They will find them, and that they will mentor them, they will pour into them. So we have to.
Yeah. And I think there is kind of like you're saying, there's also a separation where after you're not in college anymore, you learn more stuff and you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. And then you look back at kids and you're like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? You know what I mean? It's like a lot of older people will look at high school students, they're like, oh my gosh, these kids, And I've talked to some older people, they're like, I don't want to be around kids. And I'm like, no, you have to.
Yeah,
like,
we need them. We
need you here.
Yeah.
Because there's becomes that separation where you're like, I don't think that way anymore. I'm not. And it's like, that's fine. But remember when you were and what would have helped you.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that age group. I mean, high school and college, I spent a lot of time, interacting with and pouring into that age group in just a lot of different arenas. But I love it. And it is, and sometimes it can come, it's received better from someone who's not their parent, right? That if it's someone outside that you don't, when you're 18, you may not want to listen to mom, but you'll listen to somebody else that's an adult in your life at church or in business.
It's so true. And you've come in for teachings every single year. You pour into the students. We have family nights over at your house all the time. The students love coming to hang out. But I would totally say this generation that's going into college, they do crave mentorship. One thing that we're doing this next year is we're actually setting up mentorship for them, because I feel like this generation, as much as they crave mentorship, they don't know how to seek it. So many people say, man, they didn't ask me to mentor them, or I don't think they would want me to, but they just are afraid to ask and they don't know how to ask. So we're setting up mentorship groups. So we have a handful of pastors at the church that are going to take on 2 to 3 students, and they're going to mentor them once a week and just sit down with them, take them out to lunch, coffee, and just do life with them. And I would say too, mentorship doesn't always have to look like just sitting down and hoping that your student brings you a list of questions to ask you. Mentorship, if you look at the Bible, Jesus is the greatest mentor ever. And what did he do? He just did life with 12 disciples and walked with them. And sometimes that's all that these students need, is someone to do life with them and walk alongside of them.
Yeah. And we had another episode talking about this age group, because so much is online, right? That they often don't know how to have those face-to-face relationships. And so it is really good, I think, to have that and show, because they may not come in having the skills to know how to have those kind of face-to-face personal relationships, because so much of what they do is online on their phone. And so they're texting and they're, and it's a different dynamic than talking to someone, they're afraid to talk to someone face to face.
The amount of students that I've heard over the years, it's their second, their third year here, and I asked them, why have you not got a mentor yet? And this is the reason we're giving them mentors, but I asked them, and they're just, they will say, I was too afraid to ask, or I was too nervous to ask that person. But that person would love to mentor them, and they could have had that mentor the last 3 years because they were too nervous to do so. So that's why us and why people in the church need to step out and actually invite these people into our lives, because in most cases, they're not going to come ask for it.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember that in college, and I had a couple of really good mentors that I never asked them to be. I was like, hey, can you go to lunch with me again? I'm like, hey, just.
No, I get that all the time.
I'm like, can you just come to? I'll get you coffee, and they're like, okay, But
that's kind of how you and I got started doing this, right?
I know.
We started going to coffee and doing stuff, and
that's
here
awesome.
we have a podcast.
Yeah. But it's the same thing as I think that as the older people feel like they don't know, like, how do I connect with you? The younger people feel the same thing. They look at somebody. And I remember looking at my professors and I'm like, you are so smart. Why would you want to spend time with me? That's what I thought. I was like, like you're super busy. You own a business. I know all these things about you. All I do is watch you in my classroom, you know what I mean? And listen to how smart you are. But for me, like, I pushed past it. I was like, well, I want to know how to be what you're doing, So for me, I was more like, I want to be good at whatever I'm working towards. So I want to know, but I get it. A lot of students wouldn't want to ask because it's like it's
intimidating.
It's intimidating. It's like they don't care about me.
And they see how busy they are too. And I think it's a little bit of a respect thing. They respect their time and they don't want to take time from them. But I mean, these people would love to pour into them.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's Debi. I think that's how I was going to say so Debi was one of my teachers when I was younger here.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Here at this church.
That's awesome.
In Minchenettes.
yes.
Okay.
And
Third, fourth, fifth grade girls. She
That's
was
super
in
cool.
class. Uh-huh.
And I told her she did not like. She brought in those little babies. She was teaching me how to be pro-life at like
Third
fifth
grade.
grade. Yeah, yeah. She
Uh-huh.
comes in. She's like, "This is a baby." I remember her bringing it, and I had no idea
Yeah.
what she was talking about. And I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." And you know, and I'd be like, "Mom, I saw these little babies at the," you know, and she's like, "That's cool." It's so funny, but I say that to say I remember so many things, and a teacher at a church like impacts you forever. That if you are in any type of leadership or teaching role, like understanding that responsibility is so important. Because I see so many, whether it's teachers or coaches, that don't take it seriously. They're like, oh, this is for me, or this is my reputation, you know, especially in the coaching realm. It's like, this is my reputation. And I'm like, no, these kids are looking up to you. Like what you do, what you say, how you act matters. And it impacts them forever. You know what I mean? You remember what they say. I think it is that teachers are, is it second? Teachers and coaches are like in the top 3 for influence over kids.
Yeah. Which is scary when you think about the kind of teachers that are at these
Yeah,
college
it is scary.
campuses or in
Yeah.
some of the public schools,
Yeah,
right?
that's another thing we're trying to combat. We
Yeah.
have about 10 new teaching degrees we've added between undergrad and graduate school, and we're trying to create a lot of better Christian teachers that are going to go back into the schools and hopefully change things.
Yeah.
But that's so true. I played sports my entire life, baseball, basketball, football. My coaches were my favorite people, and then also my youth pastor, my favorite person.
Yeah.
Anything they told me, I was going to do.
Yeah.
So, it makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
No, that's awesome. Okay, so final question here is, if somebody wants to get involved in the college, where do they go? What do they do?
Yeah, so anybody that wants to get involved in our college can go to dreamcitycollege.com and they can apply there, or they can look us up on Dream City College. They can get in contact. We can have some conversations, host them for a tour. But we would love to have people come and check out this campus. I'll tell you, students who come here absolutely love it. It's life-changing. It's not just that they're going to get their degree at a much more affordable cost, but they're also going to make so many amazing relationships. They're going to learn quality skills. They're going to go to chapels, teachings. We have family nights. We are such a family atmosphere here. I was even sharing this morning in staff meeting, I think that we probably lead a lot of colleges and engagements. Even Debbie's daughter went to our college and she got engaged and married to another student.
Yep.
So many of our students come here, and you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people. So it's really easy to fit in, find friends, and also get into those amazing relationships. So come check out Dream City College. It's in Phoenix, Arizona, which is absolutely gorgeous. During the school year, our average temperature is 75 degrees. You can go home during the summer when it's like 120 degrees. But man,
Right, like right now, it's not 75 degrees.
no, I think it's 106 today.
In October and in February,
Yeah.
it's gorgeous. Right?
Yeah, we have a ton of fun. We go on missions trips.
Yeah.
It's such a cool college experience. Your daughter, we had an info night one night, and some student who was between ASU and here asked her a question and said, what about the college experience? Like, I want to go live on a college campus and have the college experience. And Sela said, I feel like the college experience is so overrated. Like, you see it in movies, but then you actually get there, and then the people that are asking you to do things you don't want to hang out with, the things that they're asking you to do you don't really want to
So
do.
true.
It's so expensive to live on campus. So then she was explaining, whereas here, we have family nights, so our students are always doing fun things. We'll go and do, one of my favorite ones is last year. This might sound cheesy to some people, but we had an Italian night. So all the students came over to my house. We wore fake mustaches. For people like me that can't grow one, at least we wore fake mustaches, made pizzas, we played Mafia. But we're just always doing random stuff like that, and it's just a really great way to connect with people. But yeah, you get a really cool college experience. Now we have housing on campus too that's extremely affordable, so you can still come here and get a better college experience. Yeah.
That's awesome. And if people can't come in person, do you have the online option?
Oh yeah, we have online school too. So
Okay.
if
And
for
there are
some
these
reason,
micro schools all over, right?
Yeah, and
'Cause
we
you're a
have-
regional
yeah,
director,
so we have about 40 sites in between Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, New Mexico that I'm overseeing. But on top of that, SCU has about 250 to 300 sites all over the country. I know that SCU is not the only one doing this model, but I really, really value the way that SCU does things. So whether you're in Florida listening to this, you're in California, whatever, there's probably a campus near you. Even if you don't know how to get connected with them, still get connected with us. Tell us what you're looking for, and I'd love to connect that person to really what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the
Yeah.
show today, Josh. And thanks for listening to Into the Fire, powered by Dream City Church.
You can listen to this podcast on Apple and Spotify and follow us on social media. Find all the info on the show notes. To learn more about Dream City Church, visit our website at dreamcitychurch.us. Thanks for listening.